The Arizona Cardinals are on the precipice of their third high wire act without a safety net in a row. Mike LaFleur, close to becoming the Arizona Cardinals head coach? Let's discuss.
You are Locked On Cardinals, your daily Arizona Cardinals podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Alex Clancy here. Thanks for making Locked On Cardinals your first listen, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, now the #1 sports podcast platform. We're in wait-and-see mode. Mike LaFleur is meeting with the team today after being wined and dined by Michael Bidwill last night. Probably no appetizers or adult beverages allowed. We're on a budget. Mikey, no appies? Probably. What's the rest of the plan if they do hire Mike LaFleur? I'll talk about that in the final segment. Is the Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan history enough? Because that's really all the positive part of this that we're going off of. It is very positive, and the lineage of Sean McVay's offensive coordinators of late has been above average. Defensive coordinators, not so much. Offensive coordinators, above average. But is it likely? Yeah. What we know right now, all joking aside, is that Mike LaFleur came to Arizona yesterday, had dinner with Michael Bidwill, and they were doing their, the final interview portion today. I waited as long as I could to record today. I don't know what's going to happen right after I post this, but I'm going to go about this show as if the Arizona Cardinals are hiring Mike LaFleur. What does that look like right away? One, there's a lot more questions than answers. Namely, who's the offensive and defensive coordinator is going to be? Is it going to be Raheem Morris, which is what there have been rumblings about? Does Mike LaFleur have a guy in his spider web, in his tributaries of friends that he can bring in to be an OC, most likely a first-time OC, you would think? Unsure. Talk about that in the final segment. What does that look like? This is the third high wire act without a safety net in the Cirque de Bidwill. First-time head coach. We'll see if he's calling the plays because he's never done that with any sort of actual, success before. Not totally his fault with what was going on with the Jets when he was out there calling the plays with Robert Saleh as the head coach. He's been a liaison on the offensive side of the ball for Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. Liaison maybe is selling himself a little bit short, but he ain't calling the plays. So do you bring him in as a CEO head coach and have an OC, more than likely a first-time OC, calling plays? That sounds terrible. Do you have a first-time head coach who's never called plays before, call the plays and run a team that he's never done before? That sounds terrible. A lot of my vitriol behind this and a lot of my pushback on Michael LaFleur probably has PTSD with Cliff. I know that's unfair because Cliff Kingsbury didn't have the quote-unquote upbringing in the NFL that Mike LaFleur does and did. I know that. I know it's irrational. I know it's something that, irrational or not, we are looking at the fourth massive shift from offensive to defensive side of the ball. BA, Steve Wilks, Cliff, JG, Mike LaFleur, if this ends up being the hire. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of running, chasing your tail. And I know that you need to stay in the upper echelon of new offensive minds if you want to win in this league of late. I know that. It's just terrifying. And I don't think that that's irrational. It can be excitement of the unknown, sure, and it needs to be. The Cardinals need to get this right, like every team needs to get right when they hire a new head coach, okay? For me, and I'm seeing all the cliches of everybody just needs to buy into his vision. Everybody needs to buy into his system. No. They need to win games. They need to have a competent offense. They need to bring in a DC who can have a competent defense. Everybody bought into JG. That didn't work. And I know injuries and all that stuff, buying into a vision is abstract. The Cardinals need to live in concrete mode. They need to live in, oh, this offense is good. This offense scores points. This offense scores more points than other team. Cardinals defense holds team to less points than Cardinals score. It's got to be that. So if it is Mike LaFleur, you've got to have a nice cocoon around him. If they bring in a first-time DC and first-time offensive coordinator again, that will revert back to the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting different results. On the other side, that may be unfair to Mike LaFleur. You've got Kevin O'Connell, got Liam Cohen. Neither of those guys called plays with Sean McVay. Liam Cohen went to Tampa Bay, was wildly successful for his short stint there, and then took over with Jacksonville, and they won 10-plus games for the first time in a while and made the playoffs. With Trevor Lawrence, who was kind of looked at as not a throwaway, and not a bust either, but, well, he's just going to be an average quarterback for the rest of his career that went number 1 overall. And that's what it's going to be. Not anymore. So if you get that, it's something that could change the landscape of an organization. And I'm not speaking in platitudes or being superfluous there or hyperbolic. Like, that's all it takes. Look at what happened with the Lions. And I know they've come back to earth a little bit, but they had something special there, man. And they were even more of a laughingstock or tied with than the Arizona Cardinals. Dan Campbell ushered in. You got the right OC. You drafted well. And lo and behold, drafting Amon-Ra, not in the first round. It was later. I don't know when it was. Third round? I can't remember. So it's likely that it's Mike LaFleur, and if it is, which it could break at any time when I'm recording the show, let's talk about this as if it's already happening. I don't know if it could be worse or could be better. I do know that it's scarier in a different way by not hiring somebody who's been a head coach before. I know, quote-unquote, retread gets like a bad look, a bad connotation, but would you rather have experience or not? In this day and age of the NFL, I know finding the diamond in the rough offensive guy or defensive guy, if you want to go to Mike McDonald, who's going to be a Super Bowl, that's the win. Because then you've got that guy for a decade. That is something that is fun for opposing free agents to come to, irrespective of what the uniform says and who the owner is. If you nail the head coach, you can make a Super Bowl. If you nail the head coach, you can make a Super Bowl. So when you're looking at the Arizona Cardinals and their future as tied to, most likely at this point, Mike LaFleur, there's an outside chance that defensive coordinator for the Jaguars, Anthony Campanile, could be in the mix. This just came out right before I recorded. The defensive pass coordinator for the Broncos is in line. He hasn't signed yet, but he's the leader in the clubhouse to take the Bills' defensive coordinator role, which would lend you to think that Vance Joseph will be back in Denver, which could cause people to for some. But for me, there are far more scary questions and answers right now about a first-time head coach with an offensive mindset who's never called plays and never been a head coach. Obviously, first-time head coach. This is very new. Once this hire happens, if it most likely will, once this happens, I will be getting on John Butchko from Locked On Jets. I will be talking to Brian Peacock from Locked On 49ers, and I'll be talking to one of those two hooligans over at Locked On Rams to give the full chronological picture of Mike LaFleur as being an offensive coordinator, sole offensive coordinator, play caller, and then offensive coordinator liaison in name only to Kyle Shanahan and Sean McVay. We will get all the information necessary for you all to have all pertinent knowledge going into this next chapter of the Arizona Cardinals organization if Mike LaFleur does get hired. Up until this point, nothing has been mentioned yet, but let's talk about the Sean McVay and Mike Shanahan part of this, because it holds so much more weight than maybe it should, or just the right amount. Discuss it next. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by friends over at ZocDoc. Finding a doctor is difficult, man. It's like trying to find a diamond in the rough. You want someone in network nearby with availability, but you also want a doctor who really listens, make you feel comfortable, explains things clearly, and helps you walk out feeling confident about your next step. Your diamond in the rough doctor exists, and finding them is easy with ZocDoc. ZocDoc is a free app and website that helps you find and look through high-quality in-network doctors so you can choose someone you truly connect with. I love that you can search from specialty or symptoms and quickly find the right fit. The real-time availability means you can book instantly. This is massive. So, like, between 24 and 72 hours, you can get in front of a doctor, sometimes even same day. You know that sometimes with doctors, like, could take up 2 weeks. Well, we're booked solid for a month. A day to 3 days sounds a lot better to me. So stop putting off doctor's visits. Go to ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL to find and instantly book a doctor you love today. That's ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL, ZocDoc.com/LockedOnNFL. Thanks to ZocDoc for sponsoring this message. Today's episode of Locked On Cardinals is also brought to you by Ultimate QB. This game's super fun, man. So picture this. You are the first overall pick, and you're a quarterback. You get drafted by the Arizona Cardinals. You ever think about that? Well, now you can. It's a mobile game just for you called Ultimate QB Football Legend. In this game, you step into the cleats of a number one overall pick. It's your job to lead your team to greatness, to help turn a failing franchise into a dynasty. This is the number one quarterback career mode game in the mobile app store. It introduces the most realistic environment with full career control. So this is kind of how it happens. You sign your contract. You work out, you get better, you upgrade yourself, you build chemistry with your teammates, and you talk to the GM about roster moves. It's like a real game, man. You can play the actual games in 2D and rise through the ranks to become a pro football legend. It's totally free to play, has no ads, and works 100% offline, so perfect when you want to sneak in a quick game or two on the go. Just head over to ultimate-qb.com. That's ultimate-qb.com, or search for Ultimate QB in your app store. Got something a little bit special for you. Use the promo code Locked On, all caps, in the game store to get a free boost at the start of your career. Ultimate QB Football Legend, QB1. It's your legacy. Okay, so we know nothing as of now. As I'm doing this, I almost did this show live. I started to do it live, and then I saw some words. I'm like, no, I'm going to scrap it. So, met with the team yesterday. Michael LaFleur did. Had dinner. Probably no appies. No seafood tower. No creme brulee. We're going steak and we're out of here. Mikey's on a budget. And then they had their meeting today, which at some point, I'm assuming right when I load this is when they're gonna say that he got hired. But I don't have any insider info. This is the tea leaves that I'm reading from national media, local media, collectively. Seems to be the guy. Now, say he is the guy, and that's how I'm talking this entire show. So this entire show isn't a wash. Is the McVay and Shanahan tree history enough? In this coaching cycle, yes. What terrifies me is the Cardinals, where you're like, oh, KOC, cool. And then, Liam Cohen, he had a good year. And then the Cardinals hire a third one, and it's not what the first two were. It's like, oh, great. I think the undeniability of Sean McVay and Kyle Shanahan's offensive prowess in this league is not something that can be denied. Hashtag analysis. So if you have a guy that's that close, and you have a guy that has been with both of them, he's got a LaFleur last name. He's got guys in this league that he's related to. And he's been an OC before. I know that that's not great. The record was awful when he was the OC with Robert Saleh. Aaron Rodgers tore his Achilles on the third play from scrimmage or something his first year. It wasn't great. And the Jets are a dysfunctional organization, just like the Cardinals. So maybe he's got some calluses from that experience, and then you infuse the history with Kyle Shanahan and then most recently with Sean McVay. It's like, maybe that's the perfect mixture of experience and, mentorship to be able to be ready to lead a team that, as Taylor Lewan tweeted out earlier today, not for the faint of heart. It seems like a really tall task for anybody who's never had experience to take over this gig. throughout this entire process, I've leaned on, well, you know what, bring in a defensive guy, even though the offense, rules the world at this point. Bring in a defensive guy so at least you can level up that defense and make that the strength of the team, and then you can figure out the quarterback situation. It just made more rational sense to me. Even with, Garrett Williams maybe being out for a long time, Walter Nolan, depending on the severity of that, getting hurt late in the season, if he's going to miss 6-8 weeks going into 2026, what you're going to do at number 3 overall, which is a total crapshoot at this point. But then the other side made me think like, well, if you want to stay with the times, you got to take a leap. And if you're going to take a leap, take a leap. If you're going to take a leap, do it on the offensive side of the ball to be able to maximize Trey McBride's all-pro prowess and try to get what Drew Petzing couldn't get out of Marvin Harrison Jr. and Michael Wilson, for that matter. You got Trey Benson coming back. You've got pieces. You're 2 offensive linemen away from having a well above average offensive line. I wonder if you're closer on offense than you are on defense to be able to make it absolutely pop. And I don't know. It could be tied for last. It's definitely not tied for first. So when you look at McVay, you look at his history, you look at the deep playoff runs, you look at all of these things, and you look at Shanahan in a completely different way where Kyle Shanahan really struggled as a head coach early on. I think he had 2 10-loss seasons in his first 3 years as a head coach, So the collection of the two, it's like not Sean McVay made this look very easy. Made it to a Super Bowl. Jared Goff said, no, next. Traded Jared Goff for Matthew Stafford in a pick. They haven't had a first-round pick. They've had 1 first-round pick in like 8 years. And they were just able to make it work and always make it work in a tough division. It's a tough division. With the 49ers and the Seahawks have been good. The Seahawks are the Steelers of the NFC. They just win 9 or 10 games a year. Death taxes. Seahawks. And obviously they've significantly leapfrogged that this season. So when you're looking at the big picture, it's like, yeah, okay. I guess it's enough. Would you rather have that or Raheem Morris, who was under the same tree, who has actually coordinated both sides of the ball throughout his career, did coach in Tampa Bay for 2 seasons. That was my bad, Ben Garcia, on the Squad Show. And you take the experience. Well, maybe the floor is a little bit higher, but the ceiling doesn't seem to be as high because he would have stayed in Atlanta. Atlanta's got a whole bunch of talent, man. I know they had to deal with the quarterback situation with Michael Penix also. Brought in Kirk Cousins, who played pretty well. And if they had won a couple games earlier on, they would have won the division. But that didn't happen. And with Raheem Morris, it's the same thing as Jonathan Gannon. It's like, Jonathan Gannon went 8-9 2 years ago. And if he would have won 5 games down the stretch and they would have went 8-9, he may be getting head coaching looks this year, even though the Cardinals were out of contention well before that. So it's kind of fool's gold with Raheem Morris. So at this point, it's like Brian Daboll's not coming here. Sean McDermott is hibernating. Nobody would even talk in this area, which makes sense, of course. Like I understand what a long shot that was, but I'm like, hey, you want to coach this year? You got a couple options. So as you land on Michael LaFleur, like if Michael LaFleur wasn't the offensive coordinator for Kyle Shanahan, he was the offensive coordinator for like, I don't know, Dan Campbell or somebody else, there wouldn't be as much pop. But I feel through osmosis, Michael Bidwill is thinking, well, to compete in the NFC West, you have to compete with his 2 mentors, and who better to bring in than a protege of those 2 mentors for the better part of a decade. I guess in one of the worst coaching carousels that we've seen, with the amount of head coaches that have been necessary and the actual options the Cardinals and other teams have had, it hasn't been great. And most good coaches stay. I get that. Or don't get fired. But by and large, this is a very underwhelming situation for the Cardinals to be in. And if they do hire Mike LaFleur, which it seems like they're going to any moment now, there's going to be a lot more questions than answers. But that doesn't mean that he can't be this cycle's Liam Cohen. What will he need to be for that to happen? I'll discuss it next. Locked On Cardinals, your team every day. This episode of Locked On Cardinals is brought to you by FanDuel. FanDuel is officially in playoff mode. Every game day during the NFL playoffs, there's only one left. FanDuel is giving customers even more ways to get in on the action because right now, every NFL playoff game day, including the big game, FanDuel users get a profit boost pack waiting for them inside the app. I mean, if you haven't done this yet, you got one chance, and this is how it works. It's actually really awesome. So you'll see a pack loaded with multiple profit boosts you can apply to the bets you like most every game day. One left, a week from Sunday. Open your profit boost pack first thing on game day and see where the boost you actually want to apply. The boosts give you more juice for bets you already like instead of forcing you to bet something new, which is awesome. You don't have to worry about that. You can just bet how you're going to bet. Like, ooh, I got some profit boost during the big game. Every play is at its biggest during that last game of the year, and the boosts make your bets feel that way too. You make your picks, then apply your profit boost to go after even bigger payouts while the playoffs are not seemingly, ending a week from Sunday. So visit FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL, and grab your profit boost pack every NFL playoff game day. All right. So what needs to happen? What needs to happen for this to work if it is Mike LaFleur, which we are just discussing as if it is a formality, because I'd be surprised if after I posted this, an hour later, it was official. We do have the Cardinals Squad Show tonight with Jamil Douglas, Ben Garcia, and myself. If there's any breaking news, we'll discuss it then as well. And then I will, as I mentioned, get on 3 Locked On football, Locked On NFL hosts, of whom have covered in some respect Mike LaFleur during his career in the NFL. We're going to get all the information necessary. What is the rest of the plan here? Number 1, find a veteran DC. And I'm assuming it would be Raheem Morris. The DC jobs are getting swiped up. Offensive coordinator should be more important, right? It should be more important because if you're bringing in an offensive-minded head coach, you're bringing in a guy with the McVay and Shanahan tree, and you're going to implement some form or fashion of his offense with somebody else calling it. You need a solid OC to be able to do that because you can't go through what you went through last year with Drew Petzing, even though I know he was the scapegoat when James Conner and Trey Benson went out, whatever it may be. But the Cardinals have to level the boat here. They've got to level the ship. They've got to level the seesaw. That doesn't work either. They've got to have balance. So if I had my choice of the best DC available and the best OC available, I'm still taking the best DC available because Mike LaFleur has no business on that side of the ball. So you need a guy who can be the head coach of the defense. Even if you overload and seesaw your way to offense, you bring in the best offensive coordinator available. It's like, okay, so you're going to bring in a first-time play caller on defense. Does that mean Nick Rallis is going to hang around? I don't know. Potentially. I don't know if he's going to go with JG and revert back to linebackers coach. What if he runs the same defense and guys don't get injured? And the offense can actually run the ball. So there's actual complementary football being played. Wouldn't be against that. You're giving me a first-time DC or Nick Rallis, I'm taking Nick Rallis. I know the numbers after the bye week were bad. I 100% know that. Everything was in shambles at that point. But I'm still taking Nick Rallis. The rest of the plan is you need to have veterans in the coordinator spots. I would classify Nick Rallis as a vet. He's not Wade Phillips, Sean McVay had, but he's a guy who's been here, guys know him, and it's not like they haven't produced when he's called the plays. Through their bye week, they were good. And then, the wheels fell off. So, for me, above all else, what the rest of the plan is, first of all, we have no idea what the hell the dominoes are going to fall after this. You don't know. But I think there needs to be a clear indication. Now, of course, they're going to be discussing this during the interview process, and especially if they're getting close to the, hey, pen to paper, who's the DC? Who do you want to bring in? This is who we think would be good. Who do you like? I think it needs to be a collective conversation and not allowing a first-time head coach to just pick his dudes again. That didn't work very well. And even with Nick Rallis, it's like, I I was talking out of both sides of my mouth there. I know that. But if you're looking this late into the process, there's no defensive coordinator that's going to leave their post and come be the defensive coordinator for the Cardinals. That's not happening. Obviously. So it's not like you can package Michael LaFleur and Anthony Campanile. This is not going to happen. The Cardinals have enough talent on defense to be able to pop. They just need to stay healthy. So if you want to bring back Nick Rallis, cool. I don't really have a problem with that. That's the least of the real issues, right? It's like you need to see what this looks like, who the OC is going to be, because he's got to have a short list. And I'm assuming they're guys that haven't called an offense before. You know who hasn't called an offense before either? Mike LaFleur. So this could be much ado about nothing, and this could be me looking like a complete idiot, spewing things out of my big dumb face months and months and months before, week 1 of 2026 starts. Sure. I'm going with what I'm seeing right now, and right now it's a lot more murky and unknown. I can't see the forest through the trees right now, even if and when they do hire Michael LaFleur. It's like, okay, now what? The one thing that I will commiserate with all of you is, remember, I alluded to this. It's like, when you have a list of like 5 or 6 things that you need to get to and you haven't, and you stress out and then you don't do it, but then you do, and then you don't do it. And then the first one you do, you check the box. You're like, that exhale will happen once they hire somebody. So at least that first layer of the onion can be peeled off. And then you say, okay, so who's going to be the OC? Who's going to be the DC? Once you're able to figure that out, then it'll become clear, scary, very much question mark filled, but at least clear on, okay, these are the dudes going to be here for the next few years leading this team. I just hope that if they go Michael LaFleur, which, I'm assuming this entire show, I'm assuming they will, that they have stability from the coordinator position to be able to allow an easier transition for a first-time head coach into a head coaching role in one of the most dysfunctional organizations in the NFL. Alex Clancy, Locked On Cardinals. Cardinal Squad Show today, 4 o'clock. Remember, without you, there is no me. I will talk to you at 4 o'clock today and then tomorrow.